Okay, hi guys, welcome everyone. I am so excited to have you here. I am actually, I just clicked record. So if you are live with us, awesome. If you are watching this as a replay, um, I'm excited to have you here either way. So we are going to spend our time today taking a bit of a overview and reflection on where you are in your relationship right now and what even brought you here today. Because obviously, there's a reason you clicked on this link, there's a reason that you've been following along, there's a reason that you've shown up. And we are going to cover a little bit of kind of taking inventory of like, why are you here? The reason I start with that is because understanding what brought you here is going to help us understand where we need to go. Through our conversation today, we're going to talk a little bit about what are some strategies and some tools that you can take away from today, start implementing today that are going to help you feel more connected, feel more aligned, feel less distant from your partner, starting right away. So I am so excited to have you here, and thank you for showing up for yourself and for showing up for me. Let's go ahead and get started. So, a couple of housekeeping things. If you are here live, please ask any questions. You can use the chat as you'd like to, and I will be paying attention to that here and there. If you're watching the recording, um, you might miss out on a couple of the things that are in the chat, but that's totally okay. And I'm glad to have you even virtually when we're not together live. Um, from there, if you follow up with this presentation and have any questions or anything, please know that you are welcome to contact me via the emails that you've been receiving or find me on Instagram. I am so passionate about this topic because I have been probably where you are, and I'm going to share a little bit more about our story as we dive in. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let me get my right screen showing. There you go. All right. So, how about a bit here? What I want you to take away from this course, and I'm going to share with you the fact that we have probably have mothers and women in this course, in this conversation, that are in all walks of life, okay, and all different parts of their relationship and stages of potential motherhood. So, most of what I'm covering in this conversation is earlier in your motherhood. That is the transition from being husband and wife and not parents all the way through having a baby and now trying to navigate parents together because I know that it's very difficult. Um, and I want us to kind of focus on that. However, everything I'm showing is valuable advice in a relationship, even if you don't have children, or even if you have grown children, because there are strategies and tactics that we're talking about that. However, one piece we're going to talk about, and I'm going to spend a short bit of time here, is understanding the value of your in this postpartum phase of your life, because I don't think we always have another signal what the world is going to in our minds. And we're going to start there. So the next piece is understanding tools to prepare with each other. I'm going to give you some really clear tools to take away from today that it's for me, as soon as you stop watching this video, and start putting together a relationship that are going to be huge changes for your mindset, the way you connect with each other. If you take nothing away from today, it's not the two ways to be prepared. The third piece here is how to take the next step forward in your relationship. So I didn't want to leave you after this conversation with great much of information that I just talked about. I'm not going to do that. I also want to make it very clear that I'm not trying to say. And there's so many of these calls where like, make sure you say yes and that you get an opportunity for a great offer. I would love for you to say it. Please say it because I have opportunity for really great information. I'm not trying to sell you anything today, and this is purely for you, purely just for your use and your support because it matters to me. So please stay to the end. I would love to help you, but you do not need to feel like you're ready about something. I'm going to give you all the tools right here. Okay. So first of all, I just want to give a brief introduction as to who I am. You can read a little bit about what I have here. They're just sort of random things. I used to think in school when they were like, name a random fact about yourself. I hated that. I never could think of anything random enough that I felt like was worth sharing. But here's a couple of things. A little bit more about my background as a wife and a mother. So my husband and I met when we were 15 years old. We met when we were in high school. And very young, naive little people that didn't really know who we were, what we wanted at the time. But now that we've been together 14 years, it was a beautiful opportunity to really grow together between 2009 when we met and here we are in 2023. So we met when we were 15. We started dating pretty much right away. I think he turned 16 very shortly after. And we finished out high school together. I went away to college and he stayed home, but I was relatively local. So we saw each other very often. In fact, I ended up transferring colleges to come closer back to home for several reasons, but also I think it was nice to have each other close. And then after college, we actually moved out to Arizona for about 6 months for my job training and lived there and loved it. That was the first time we'd ever lived together before we were married, and really, really enjoyed our time. Our time. We came back home in 2017, and in a matter of like 3 months, if that. So we moved back in April. We got married in May, and we bought our first home in June. We bought our first home together, married, and spent 3 years there. So up until this point, most of our relationship was there were still situations that were kind of rocky or things that we had to discuss and work through. But up until this point, everything just kind of felt like life, right? Like you start dating, you get engaged, you buy a house, you get married, just all the things. And it wasn't until 2020 when a lot of our life just started to shift, for a couple of reasons and some stories that I don't even need to spend the time on today. But one of those pieces is that um, we sold our house and bought 30 acres of beautiful woods here in Maryland, where we are, and couldn't necessarily be paying mortgages on both. So we ended up moving in with his parents. We then moved in with my mom. So we were really house hopping, actually, for about 3 years. We also decided we wanted to try to start for a family and come back to that piece that didn't go as we thought it would. And then I also decided to quit my job and just decided to pursue, I actually do photography full time. And so there was just a lot of change happening. In addition to that, my parents also separated at the end of 2019 very unexpectedly. So I was trying to navigate this new relationship or like backup relationship that came out of that as well. So, so much in 2020. Oh, and then let's just talk a pandemic on top of it that caused life to just look hectic and overwhelming. But we traversed it. Like we did okay. We tried to get closer. We tried, come together and again decided we wanted to start a family. Well, what we didn't realize was that it wasn't going to be as easy for us to get pregnant as we thought. So we actually did get pregnant and experienced a loss very early on, in October of 2020. After that, it took us until September of 2021 to get pregnant with our young son, Calvin. And during that time, I think it just beat us down in terms of like emotional well-being and health of our relationship. Because if you've experienced struggle in getting pregnant, it wears on you in ways that you just really didn't know. So when we did get pregnant and we spent those 9 months growing Calvin, I it was a lot of joy and still some stress of figuring out life together. But we just knew like, finally this is it. We're going to be mom and dad. What I was not prepared for was what the next few months would look like after having Calvin. Um, I thought we would have this just beautiful family and this would be life together for us. And all the pictures you see on Facebook and what everybody's sharing. And I had no idea the amount of weight that a child puts on your relationship even though we'd been together for almost 14 years. I felt like we knew each other. We shouldn't have any disagreement. Not shouldn't have any disagreements, but like we should know each other. We should know how to work through these things, and our communication should be great because we've been together for so long. And I had no clue that having this child was going to cause communication to just go like out the window, and that navigating intimacy again and trying to figure out how to spend time with each other. And we hit a point of a few months of a lot of really hard conversations, a lot of days of, you know, I'm just going to leave and step out of the room or step out of the house because I am not getting through to you. And I hated being in that place, right? And if you are in that place, you know what that feels like, this feeling of just um, You're not connecting, you're not communicating. This person that's supposed to be your partner isn't feeling close to you. And now you have this child, and it's like as close as you are and as close together as you are, it can almost feel more isolated because you feel in charge of this new being, and the person who's supposed to be your partner is not even on the same page as you. Um, no matter how strong your relationship is, that still happens, right? Like the way I like to explain this, the analogy I like to use, there's two, but one is that you are a team, right? And let's say you're playing soccer and you're great soccer players, and suddenly not you decide, someone decides that you're not going to be playing soccer anymore. You're going to be playing. Okay, so you have this child, and suddenly you're playing a sport you've never played before. You're on a team together still, but no one knows how to play. You have no experience. You have no uh, particular support or training in this new sport. And suddenly you're just supposed to be weird. It's like you're playing soccer and you're supposed to be an entire without benefits. That's where we have to look at that analogy. If I were suddenly supposed to do a sport, this is something I'm not supposed to do at all. But like, if I was suddenly forced to do a sport, what would I need to do? I would need to I would need a better support. I would need probably a different nutrition plan or a different workout plan. In the same way that we need to look at our relationship, we are still a team, we are still playing the same sport, but we now need to use different tools and different um, trainings and different support than we did when we were playing soccer. Okay? Because we were playing husband and wife, now we're playing kids. And how was that? Okay. So where we are now, where I feel like we have finally gotten to is such a beautiful place of communication. Like open conversations, honest conversations. We have learned how to actually speak to each other, how what we're actually feeling, and not beating around the bush. And when a disagreement does come up, we know what tools to use to step away and come back to. We're able to redirect what can feel so distancing to how we're supporting our child, or what's important for him or what's important for us. How are we taking care of our health? How are we taking care of each other? And I want to share all of that with you today because I don't want you to feel disconnected. I don't want you to feel distant from your partner. I don't want you to feel like the person you were so in love with before, it's feeling like, is this right for us? And that's so terrifying. I don't want you to feel that anymore. So, what we're going to talk about today is how to move through and past that with each other, even though you might feel alone right now. Okay. All right. Moving through. The key takeaway that I want you to remember, write down, embody from today is this: the path that you have taken to get to you to where you are today, okay? The path you have taken to this point does not determine the success of your relationship moving forward. I'll read that one more time. The path you have taken to this point does not determine the success of your relationship moving forward. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is today, by showing up here today, by watching this today, you have made a decision. You have made a decision that everything that has happened in the past, any disagreements, any arguments, any feelings of distance eh, and we're not on the same page, and is this going to work? And I said this to him and he said this to me, and he's parenting this way and I want to parent this way. All of those things that have gotten you to this point where you signed up for this call today do not determine what your relationship looks like moving forward. You do. You get to choose today how you show up for each other, for yourself, and for your family. Okay? It can be the smallest shift in perspective, and that's what I'm going to share with you today, that will completely change the trajectory of where you're going. Okay? The smallest shift. It might feel like it's this heavy weight of so much progress and so much work, and do we need counseling, and do we need this, and I just can't get through it. But I am telling you, with one small perspective shift, it can all change today. As you're listening to this, your shift, your perspective shift might happen at a different point than someone else. So there are a couple points I'm going to make today that might be the click. That might be the thing that sticks with you and says, okay, yes, I'm going to change, or this is going to change. It might be something else later in the presentation. So be open to absorbing everything we're talking about so that you can let that perspective shift happen for you. Okay. The choices you make, the observances of your relationship, and the commitment that you make to each other dictate what's moving forward. So there are three parts here. The choices you make. One of those choices is showing up here today, right? You chose to be here because this matters to you. And that's huge. That is huge. The other piece here is the observances of your relationship. We're going to talk a little bit about stepping back and observing what's actually going on. We get so emotional and so in our heads and so defensive, like so quickly defensive, that we forget to actually be an observer of what's going on. In the same way that if you follow my Instagram, you follow my social, I talk about observing your child, watching for their cues, watching for their behaviors. We're doing the same thing with our relationship, like spouse with ourselves. And the commitment you've made to each other. You get to decide. Your marriage is your marriage. You get to decide, did you make this commitment? In my opinion, Tyler and I made a commitment to each other. We made a commitment to each other for the rest of our lives, to grow with each other, to get closer to each other, to always be there for each other. So even when it feels horrible and my skin's taking worse, it still means I'm committed to you. And you get to decide. That's a conversation you're going to do with me. It could be tricky with some of these files and some of the coaching because one is that one is that I'm going to tell you that I was like sitting this out. The reason you have it because there's a reason. There's a reason you to there's a reason you do it. And you're going to carry each other and each other is the core mentality. Okay. I want to take a brief minute to talk a little bit about this is my personal largely to those of us who are in the early stages of this life. So maybe for the first year, 2 years. However, I think there's like life before like not after another. I don't even feel like we can say 6 months before, 8 months before, maybe 25 years before. You still have to shift. So take that with grain of salt. Listen to what we're talking about here. Overlay that with your really briefly. The brain of the community. I just want to bring this to your attention because some of the stuff that access that you're going to actually changes during pregnancy and is stuff that we can put on the so the brain is part of the space around the lights. And that method is specifically used for executive function, but it is used for the daily process. While you are acting that brain literally shrinks, like if you trigger things, you would see that did exist as so. What I've had fascinating is on that magnets of listening. Researchers could accurately predict 94.6% who would own this so they would have a hundred insights when they know the possibility and with 95.6%, that's almost 100%. They make rumors because of the brain activity. So this isn't just real, like this is actually your brain machine. So what is brain matter actually responsible for? It is responsible for 3 things: your movement, your memory, and your emotions. So let's just put it this way. When it comes to regulating emotions, you feel happy, sad, overwhelmed, content, satisfied, whatever. When that brain matter shrinks, your brain is going to have to work harder to understand and regulate your emotions. Can we just call it like a simple thing? Because all this time we've been thinking we just can't get it together. No, it's actually your brain. Like it's physically changed. There's a reason that you feel that way. How about your memory? Okay, funny story. Little caveat here, funny story. When I was 2 months postpartum, I don't know, we got into this routine of having ice cream every night, and honestly, we're still in that routine. We have ice cream every night, and it's a thing. But most of the time, Tyler was responsible for fixing the ice cream. I was on the couch with the baby, he would go fix the ice cream, and he would bring it to us. But then we kind of shifted where Calvin would lay on Tyler on the couch, and so I would go fix the ice cream. Well, here's what started happening. It happened once. The next morning, went to open the refrigerator and the ice cream was in the refrigerator, not the freezer. Okay. It happened once. No big deal. But the problem is this didn't just happen once. This happened not once, not twice, not three times, not even four times, five times. I put the ice cream in the refrigerator and not in the freezer. By the fifth time, actually, I asked Tyler that night. I said, "Hey, can we have ice cream?" And I heard him yell from the kitchen, "No." It's like, "Why can't I have ice cream?" He says, "Because you put it in the fridge again." I walked into the living room, I sat on the couch, and I started bawling because I was so mad at myself and I was so frustrated that why could I not get this right? Like nothing consciously was happening, but I could not get this right. Then I learned about my brain and I realized that it's not my fault. Like my brain has literally changed, and the reason I'm putting the ice cream in the fridge is because my memory is different than it was before. And movement. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand. Like even muscle memory. I mean, clearly I was just opening the fridge and putting it in the, yeah. So movement too. Okay. Which brings me to what we call your default mode network. So here's the thing, go back to gray matter. You're like, well, this sucks, right? My gray matter in my brain shrunk. Is it ever going to come back? Yes, it will come back. And two, this actually is creating room for what's called your default mode network. Your default mode network is the part of the brain that is responsible for these three pieces. And this increases and enhances when you have your baby. So the gray matter shrinks, the default mode network grows. This is responsible for empathy, anxiety, social interaction, and this piece kind of goes all along, and attracting you to your baby. So not only am I now not as fantastic at memorizing and my emotions, okay, whatever, but I am superwoman when it now comes to feeling for my child, knowing when he needs to be held, knowing what he needs pretty much at any time, even if I have to guess a little bit, attuning to his every move and want and sound, right? Because that's what I'm designed for. So I want us to take another deep breath. Your body, okay, is actually physically designed to keep your child alive and thriving. And in so many ways, we think we aren't supposed to tune into that. Like, no, just put him down, he's fine. Or, no, we don't want to spoil. Now, I'm not going to get onto a path with that. That's entirely up to you and how you do it. However, for those of us that feel a lot of the weight of, doing the right thing, this is proof you are doing exactly what your brain is wiring you to do. The anxiety piece is interesting because anybody who's been anxiety or already had anxiety before, now it's like pathological. It's natural, it's normal, and it's helping protect you. There's a reason for that. There's a reason you have postpartum anxiety and your spouse is going to say, because we need that. Right? We need us to say, not sure if that's a good idea. And we need our spouse to say, it's okay. We need it. It's just a relationship. I feel like I'm up here with exactly the same. Hopefully. Okay. So what does this mean? Let me translate this to a purpose, because you're probably like, is it this process like purpose of relationships? Well, yes. But the needs to start with us. Right? The way we perceive our relationship, the perspective shift, we're looking for it has to start with us. We're not on top. So what does this mean? What does this all about? What this means is that they can't be enemies. They cannot even make guarantees. We really have a hard time listening. Right? We don't find how is this person available, and how is this person available, and how it acts differently, think differently, feel differently, like every activity is different than it was before. And so from their outside perspective, like we're not anybody who's going to go, I don't know what's going on. How in the world are we supposed to think that? They know. And in fact, from their outward perspective, they're kind of like, right? Because I saw a number of that. And this is not taking and absolutely very well supportive. But our brains work different. They never thought we intensely the way we think is so complex and merged together. They think analysis, and that's part of what they're I could do a presentation on how to analysis. So this is the way it works. Okay? And you're trying something
And I don't know if it's the baby box or if it's the white box or the red. So they see our frustrations, they see our tears, they see our anger, they see our joy, or all of these emotions. They don't understand the way that internet can relate about the emotions. So I actually want to take a minute to kind of keeping a little bit of grace and say, just they don't know, they're not going to understand how we feel, and we can't expect them to taking care of themselves. So because they know so not in this, we need to be vigilant of taking care of ourselves. I when I was young, this comes back around to the way we're doing this. If our executive function, that gray matter is shrinking, and this default mode network that's responsible for anxiety, social interaction, and connection is in hyperdrive. This also means that our brain needs rest. And now you might hear people like sleep when the baby sleeps, and that can be really difficult. But I would like to mention a brief story about how I realized that rest is important and still is. This actually came up yesterday. Prior to having a baby, my tired cues to know I was sleepy were heavy eyes, maybe your head feels kind of sluggish, your body feels slow, right? There's a physical response or physical awareness of I feel tired in some way. Okay? After having him, I did not have those cues. For months, like tired eyes, tired body, tired mind did not happen because my mind was in hyperdrive. My mind was I need to be on for this child at all times. Right? I still slept, but I didn't understand that I was tired. Like I didn't know my body was telling me I was tired. It showed up for me in grouchy, emotional, illogical thinking, really like uncomfortable thoughts about our relationship. These are the moments when things like, I don't know if we can do this together. Are we actually meant to be? Was this the right decision? That's when those thoughts would come through. But I didn't know I was tired. I just started thinking that the world was like so heavy. It wasn't until Tyler actually started picking up on it and he goes, "You need sleep." He would see that I would start to go down this path of an illogical thought or something that just didn't make sense or wasn't rational. And he would say, "You need to go to sleep." This doesn't mean prioritizing rest is easy. It doesn't mean that being kind to yourself is easy, but it does mean that is the quicker you can realize, I'm experiencing this, or this is a thought that I know if I wake up tomorrow, I'm not going to feel the same way. That's when you need rest. Ask mom to come over. Ask your husband to hold the baby. I used to drive in the car, so Calvin would nap in the car, and then I would literally close my eyes and nap in the front seat. Like, find ways, start to be creative about how you can prioritize rest because it's important. Okay, communicating with your partner. Now, this might be a part of our conversation today that you find really helpful and hopefully that you can take away and just start implementing right away. Okay, I want to talk about learning communication styles and learning about each other and what your deepest desires and deepest fears are. That sounds like a lot, and I'm going to explain more. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to talk a little bit about love languages. Now, you've probably heard about a love language. If you haven't, welcome. If you have, it's a brief overview. There are 5 different love languages. Okay, and there was an author that put this together that says there are 5 ways in which we give love, and there are 5 ways in which we receive love. So each individual gives and receives love, maybe the same way, most likely different. Okay, the love is the center of this. How do we give it outwardly? How do we receive? So, for example, I am a I like to receive love by words of affirmation. The more you tell me how wonderful I am, the more I light up. This is not just in my relationship with my husband, but across the board. And I know this about myself, and I will admit that about myself. That's actually going to come back in our next communication type conversation that we're going to get to. Because it's interesting how your love language is a reflection of something deeper. So I like to receive love by words of affirmation. I like to give love by gift giving. The idea of buying something special or baking something or um, putting together, a bag or bow gifting it to you and that to you. That is how I like to give. So here's the funny thing. My husband doesn't give nor receive love in either of those ways. Okay, so his way of receiving love isn't by receiving gifts. He does not give about this. Which is funny because birthdays are a big deal to me. I love giving all the birthdays and giving gifts and giving people. And he doesn't do that. For his birthday, he doesn't do that. Like, maybe that's what maybe he just so that's an insult for me. But it's okay. It's an insult like but it's in the middle because that I could talk obviously putting the first birthday is this gonna be a insult. And then it's not an insult and I was looking for this huge response, this huge reaction, I have to realize that's because that's important. Just because it's important to me doesn't mean that's what we can see him. It's his birthday, he really understands. Okay? So how does he give love? He likes to give love by accessories. So when he does the dishes, or when he watches the film, and he's like, "Is it good to see this?" Oh yeah. But to him, he sees that as a service to us, to our home, to our family. He's giving us love. And to me, that's a service like whole things goes on, right? So that's also a situation where he's showing something love from love for doing this. And to me, I'm thinking, well, that's just what we do with people. So I'm not respecting him if I'm overwhelmed. And yes, thank you. Right? The point to this is realizing we can let go of so much of and so much of this communication people absolutely realize where someone is coming from, what they're trying to do for both ways, right? I know this so love by responding for which means I'm going to respond with love as right? Now you might be like, well, you're supposed to respect yes, but I can still show my love in response to these. Does that make sense? Okay. So the other piece where that's interesting is he receives that love and physical touch. That show means I wouldn't say that they receive love because of touch means that they're so I have learned over time that I can spend all day getting this book, getting gifts, putting this together, what all that stuff. That's just what but if I do it maybe at the end of the day, he is happy as it, right? Or like I was or like the time that I have with kids, he that was he was so I have even though that's not that versus that's to show them how to I would spend all day keeping that like information and get more information from the spirit and we actually able to that's the connection version of the love languages I'll probably make something so that you can take the test for yourself. So I could use last to do if you need to like brag on myself, oh my god, physical touch and see if that gets him to take it because sometimes we think that gets him to have it. I'm just saying. Okay. My next piece is the Enneagram test. Okay. So if you have heard the Enneagram, raise your hand. Okay. If you've not heard the Enneagram, okay. There are 9 numbers as a result of the Enneagram test. I'm not going to do a deep dive on this because there is so much here. I've actually gotten like textbooks that I've read because I find it so fascinating. But when you take this test, it takes maybe 10-15 minutes and you are going to get a number and a weight. Okay? If you are interested, if you take the test, I'm going to link the website in this email. When you get the recording. If you get the recording, I'm going to link this. Take the test. It's free. When you get to the end and there's a pie chart, okay, I want you to screenshot the pie chart and DM it to me or email it to me, either one, but you can DM it to me. DM me the screenshot to I am Carly Hudson, and I'm going to walk through it with you briefly, but I'm going to walk through it with you because it can be a little bit difficult when you're new to this to understand what's your number and what's your wing, and that matters, okay? So, for example, I am a 3 wing 4. Okay, what that means is that I am highly achieving. I am goal driven. I am a perfectionist, sort of like I am a big goal visionary. I need I need to be moving in that direction at all times. Okay. Wing four is actually a bit of like a creative wing, so that makes a lot of sense if you know me. Tyler is a one, wing two. Okay, so he is a perfectionist and very accurately a perfectionist, but he's also a helper. So that helper wing says, I want to do everything perfectly, but I also want to be of service to others. And so this is interesting in his business because he so often like does a job and doesn't even want to charge somebody because he's like, well, it took me 8 weeks to do it because I did it so perfectly and I just want to help you out. We're working on that because that doesn't give us a living. But anyway, that's his character and it's a beautiful character. But the funny thing that we found is that for me, I know that done is better than perfect. So when it comes to washing a window, okay, I'm going to spray that window down. I'm going to wipe it down. I'm going to move to the next one. It's clean. Okay. He will spray and spray and wipe and spray and wipe and spray and wipe and spend 25 minutes on one window. And that causes a lot of frustration between us. It shows up in parenting, right? Because this is the way I want to do this. Like, get him in the diaper, he's done. Well, you didn't lay the flap down perfectly and close it this way, right? And I actually find that for men and women, sometimes these roles are reversed. Are you the mom that like needs to restack the dishwasher because he didn't do it right? Or the opposite? Get the stuff in the dishwasher, I'm good, shut the door, turn it on. He has to make sure like the bowls are perfectly aligned. So understanding about this about each other in a very practical sense is important. On a deeper sense, when you take this Enneagram test, it actually brings up for you and talks to you about what are your deepest desires and what are your deepest fears. I took this test in 2020 and it changed my life. I thought I was very transparent. I thought I was very emotionally aware. I thought I was an open book with others when it came to my emotions and talking about how I felt. I was so I had walls on walls on walls, like ego on ego on ego, and I had no idea. No idea. But I was willing to take this test. I was willing to read the things it said that weren't so fun to read. Like the things that said, hey, you are a bit of an ego. You like to just hear what people say about you. You want people telling you that you're great all the time. You feel like you have to be perfect and always because your deepest fear is that you aren't and by not only that, you see achievement. So achievement proves something. So when I read that I have worth because I exist, I take what did it to it, right? That is like the most underground phrase you think with Tyler's some of his deepest fear is not being like where would not be seen as true, righteous, and fit. Doing a deep dive on this, even if you can't discuss this, even if I don't discuss it, that's why I start with start away from who you are to the deepest levels. Like, understand really what do you feel, what do you feel, you're going to be able to start communicating with yourself, with what, and even with others. Not literally because what matters to you is going to be so much more important. A lot of these mixed thoughts and like this that's where we need to be serious. We need to put nothing else in ourselves. Stay tuned in. Okay, that's the effort. Again, make sure to take the test, look for it, grab it, go here, screenshot that check, and if you go too far, I'll take that check to the screenshot that check, DM it to me, and okay. Oh, we have about 15 minutes. Thank you guys so much for coming. Excited to have all of this content with me because I can't wait to see what this is. This is like this is the good stuff. This is the good things. This is like everything you just want to start reality. I want you to read this part. I want you to start it with this feeling. I feel comfortable. Like there's something that's so right in that relationship. We're not going to we're not on the same page. And I don't like it. And I want you to live together, feel this. We can do this. We can be together. We can connect again. Even more deeply than we did before. We can be intimate again. I wish I had the time to go through that further because I know some really great things. But this next section is going to be about drive. What is it really? Skills and everything. We're visiting the work of this example. It's powerful and universe. So if you have ever done any work in person development, it's up to that. You're going to see that there's this conversation about love. And this actually, from a spiritual perspective, makes a lot of sense too. I'm not largely religious. I would say I'm spiritual, but I'm not particularly a churchgoer, so I can't make references there. Um, but I do think it shows up in that space a lot. Love is this ever powerful force. Right? If we were to pare it down to just like love and hate, I guess we have those two pieces, right? But love is this powerful force that is completely endless. Endless. It is forever abundant. There is never not enough. There's never not the ability to create more. It is if we can begin to recognize how can I come from love in all parts of our lives, the world will open for you. Okay, let's start digging into that a bit. So, I want to tell you a short story about a friend of mine. Her name's Jillian. So, Jillian had shown up for me. She had reached out to me and had mentioned that she was having some difficulty in her relationship, and we sat down and we started talking and doing a deep dive and trying to come up with a strategy to help her through this. She had a new baby, um, I think maybe 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. And she's like, I just don't know what to do. We're not connecting. I feel distant. This isn't working. Right? What I don't know what to do. And as we started talking, we started having this conversation. I realized that so often as women and as wives and as new mothers, we feel so tired. We feel like I'm doing everything. I'm doing the dishes. I'm doing the bottom. I'm nursing. I'm doing the laundry. I'm changing. I'm doing all of these things. And the more we hold on to that, I'm doing everything, the more frustrated we are with our partners who seem like they're doing nothing, right? And they might come on and say, well, I had a long day at work. Yes, but I had a long day at home, right? And there's this battle between what he said, she said, and I did more, we live in this space. When I realized that I can be I can feel that. I can feel like I had all these things to do and I'm tired and I have so much, and I can recognize that you do too. Things started to shift. When I realized that I can be at home and I can up all of this weight and all of this is so much for me and I'm so tired, but I love you and I know you're working hard too and I'm here for you. That's when things started to change because I realized that love is endless. And even though I feel tired and overwhelmed, I can still come from love. I can still come from more love. So when I talked to Julian, I said, how can you find ways to show up in more love? When he comes home from a long day work and you've had a long day, you have two options. You can decide, I'm frustrated. I want him to understand. I want him to come to me and I want him to tell me about, yeah, you had a long day. How can I help you? What can I do? And just, start doing things or take care of things for me. That would be great. But instead, because it doesn't have to be, you can say, I had a long day. What can I do for him? How can I show him that? And this is where those love languages come in. Right? So for Tyler, I've had a long, long day. And I want him to I want him to know it's bad. I want him to like it so much. I look at him and say, I cooked him a big dinner. And I cared for the baby. I did all these things. Right? And he comes home and he's tired. And I say to him, I'll get to my TV. And he'll look at me back. And when this shift happened, instead of seeing this, he is a That's this is not really sure everybody to be happily sitting saying it's like, oh, that's very so we would like we get everybody we watch and you could take the connection to because he was almost boggled. Wait, she did all these things, she did this to them, and yet she's still shutting she's still shutting up from you, even on curious emotion, they start to realize that they can show it. You are giving them those you are teaching them the guidance to self. I think even my life. That gives me the opportunity to listen. Okay. Now, if you're another, this makes sense to you. If you are not even in a space and stuff, it doesn't have to be both that change spaces. But that's what you are blessed with the opportunity to experience the spiritual shift in your life. We were living before your parents, but we are different. Right? This transition from living with to living with, talk about everything you do is different. Like your entire being feels like this new version, which is like but also one of the hardest things because it gives us an opportunity to know more about ourselves, to get deeper, to heal who we are in the spiritual process. Our parents didn't get it. They didn't get this. They didn't have this massive shift. Yes, they became yes, they became yes, that was a big deal. But it was not the same shift that we experienced as well. We grew in a very different type of connection and it's just in the same. Our parents were not with the other parents and the energy and we can say that it's different. I think the master can tell you it's different. Right? It's the same way that I think we have this comments for the problems and the layers and it's important for me to see because they're the same to us. Right? If we realize this shift in a healthy, in a strength, in a way of life, it is okay. I need to be the guy. I had somebody here actually originally so she said this so she said something along the lines of as women, as mothers, we get to be the opportunity to bring our husbands alive on an emotional journey. We get to open the doors to show them how to how to feel, how to show up as their true selves, right? And strip the ego and strip all of that and actually show up at a deeper level. They some of them know, but very most often they can't get there on their own. And that is not to any fault, that is not to degrade them in any way. But it's how they're designed. They're designed to have one. They're designed to go out and protect and to show up and to provide. Right? That's biologically how they're designed. They're not designed to sit at home and think about how do I feel. Okay. But we can get them there. We can give them the space, we can give them the home, we can give them the gentleness to say, I see you for all that you are. I will love you for all that you are. And I support you in all that you are. Right? They need to hear that. Because we do. We say, I open up everything I am to accept everything that you are. Which means that even when you're mad and even when you're grumpy and even on, I love you even more because it helps me understand you better. This is the perspective shift. I could very clearly say, you're grumpy and you're mean and you're annoying me and I don't want anything to do with you. That's fine. You can say that too because sometimes it's true. Sometimes he gets so grumpy, I'm like, I can't. And that's fine. But I can also say, but I love you and I open space for you. Right? That you don't have to say those words because they might turn away from you. But the more you can start to think, how can I come from? How can I guide him through this? I had a conversation with a girlfriend yesterday. She has like 2, 3 weeks old, and we talked about this. She's like, I feel like I have to mother him a little bit. And for a long time, I felt like I didn't want to do that. I want to be your mother. I don't want to pick up your clothes. I don't want to have to do all the laundry. I don't want to have to do all this. You can decide how the chores break down, but from a nurturing perspective, we get this newfound gift as we have our children of nurturing at this just amazing level. We get to nurture our spouses too. And I say that as a we get to. We get to be their God. We get to be the one that says, this is the way I'm living. I'm living in love. I'm behaving in love. I'm showing you the way. The same way we would show our children, right? The way we act is what our children pick up. We know that. And we're at the point now where like we have this little tiny table in our kitchen for Calvin. Well, I sat on it the other day and I realized I can't sit on the table because he's going to think he can sit on the table, right? They absorb everything. Our spouses are the same. We are most like the people we are most often around. So be the version of yourself that you want him to mimic, right? If if you, let's say if you're at home all day, you're doing all the things, you're doing the cooking, you're doing the cleaning, you're doing this, you're doing that, and he walks in and you still show up and say, hey babe, I know you had a really long day. Do you want to talk about it? Or I'd like to talk to you. Or do you want to here's dinner, or let's watch a movie together, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big at all. Sometimes honestly it's literally he walks in the door from work and I turn to him just to give him my attention. Like I can do that. I can come from love. I don't feel like I have to give and take and combat with you on how hard your day is. We can both have difficult days and we can continue to show up for each other. Okay. All right. That's gonna wrap us up here. That is the bulk of what I wanted to share with you. Um, I am so thankful for our time together. I hope that you took something away. I hope that that perspective shift happened for you. I hope you feel motivated by this. I know that the practicality of it can still feel like, you might be talking this afternoon and feel like we're still not getting it, and that's okay. But you have opened your door, you have opened your mind to this perspective. You have opened a conversation with at least yourself to say, how can we look deeper? How can we look more inward? How can we love more? And that's where it starts. That's where it starts. It doesn't start with anything else. That's where it starts. Check out those two, check out the love languages, check out the Enneagram, even if you just do it for yourself to start. I think it's a great place to get started to understand yourself better. If you find yourself, but I want you to know that you need more conversation. Want to have a conversation about this, please listen. Please connect. Please reach out to me. I live for this. I want to talk about it. And I want to work with you. I want to see it. So I want to find deep down my therapist for it on the real, which is really close to it's not actually just it's not something. But it's not the top of it. Live in the deep, usually on surface. The deep is where I want to be. I like having these conversations and we talk to them. So this is what we're going through. Now when you start to go through where is that shift? It'll turn it down, flip the switch. It's going to be yes. And that one is so you message to them, you get busy to them, you get I try to play with them, so I can give you feedback, you get the numbers and you will use I think that was all. Thank you guys so much for showing up, for yourselves.